What's up, everybody? Hurricane here. I wanted to soapbox for a minute about a metronome and what a metronome means to me as a musician, and more specifically as a drummer. There's a lot of debate, I guess, that goes on in groups that I'm a part of and stuff about to use a click or not. And I want to be clear about the fact that I'm not talking here about using the click in a band situation. That totally depends on the band and the situation. I'm talking specifically about practice and really understanding time and timing. I grew up on the piano. I played from, I don't know, kindergarten until sixth grade. I was born on a metronome with the little weight and it slided up it, so it doesn't even, I can't even think of being a musician without knowing that. But not everybody has my background. So think about a click. I think about a click in a very selfish way as a drummer, as a musician. And I use it as a way to not hit the beeps necessarily every time exactly where it needs to be, but to understand where it is going to be, where that beep is going to occur, regardless of where I am in my pattern or my ghost notes versus accents or whatever else. But I know where that is, because you know what? That bass player, that dude is schooled and he knows exactly where, and he's not going to wait for me to rook, rook-a-da, rook, rook-a-da, rook down the toms if I'm adding an eighth note on the end of it, or a quarter note, or shortening it by any amount. Because him and the keyboard player, they know what they're doing, and I don't. Do you see my point? So it's less about being in a band situation and more about, for me, being able to sit down with the pad and understand how those intervals are, exactly where the spacings are, and get it together here so that when I'm going to go rook rookada down the toms, I'm ending up at the right place. And ultimately, I could play whatever I wanted in that space of time and still end up at the place. And everybody else knows where the time and the place need to be, so what happens during there doesn't matter. Do you see what I'm saying? It is about the spacing. So I'm going to take an example here, and I'm going to just use this, and this is at 100 BPM. It's going to stay there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it going, and you'll hear the beeps, and I'll do some simple things to it, but then I'll try to get myself a little bit worked up and a little bit off of the beaten path, changing my subdivisions up, eighth notes, 16th triplets, eighth triplets, 16ths, whatever, and just bounce in between them, excuse me, and be able to still, regardless of what I'm doing, end up where I need to on that one. Metronome, for me, all about knowing perfect spacing and where the one is so that I can come in at the right time, ghost note patterns with the hi-hat and the snare. That backbeat needs to be exactly where it needs to be. That is spacing between my smaller, faster subdivisions, if that makes any sense. So let's just give this a shot. And it's just an idea, but this is how I use a metronome, and it's not necessarily using a click. You can't, you know, it doesn't, it's not the click that takes the soul out of music. It's the inexperienced player with the click that takes it out. The click is just showing everybody the grid. That's it. 100 BPM. Let's just see what happens. See, I was still able to end up on that one, kind of regardless of what I'm doing. So as I get more complex with my patterns, and this doesn't matter at what level you're at, as I get more complex with my patterns, it just makes it that much more difficult, and I can make the amount of time in between the length of the crazy pattern that I do and still end up on the one. Maybe it's a, you know, an 8-bar pattern or solo or something where the horns are hitting on the and of 2 and the, you know, 3rd bar or something. I got to know exactly where that is. So my spacing has to be exact. It's the metronome that helps me do that. So the other way I do it is to really get my clarity and dynamics between my fundamental strokes, singles and doubles. Let me show you how I do it with doubles. I'm going to do regular doubles. And then I'm going to do inverted doubles, which is the same thing except just one hit and then 2, 2, 2, 2. And if you've ever tried them, it takes a lot of work to get them like that. But I'll show you how I use the metronome to keep my spacing and my dynamics smooth and where I want them to be in something like 16ths at 100 BPM, which is not that fast. Spacing, precision, accuracy, and where I want it to be. You can see what I'm talking about. So I just wanted to say, for me, a metronome is an enormous tool, and I can't even imagine being a drummer without the skills and the ability to become crisp. I feel like if I didn't use a metronome, I would be severely shorting myself and not having any idea what I could really do. Soapbox off, hurricane out.